A French government spokesman was evacuated from his office as violence broke out during Yellow Vests protests in Paris and other cities. Benjamin Griveaux said he and his team had to escape through a back door after a construction vehicle was used to ram the building's entrance. There were clashes between police and protesters on what was the first protest of the new year. President Emmanuel Macron condemned the violence, urging debate and dialogue. What began as a protest about a fuel tax back in November has escalated into widespread anger at rising living costs. The march in Paris began peacefully, but scuffles broke out in the afternoon, with protesters throwing projectiles at riot police, who responded with tear gas. Motorcycles and beans were set ablaze, and a riverboat caught fire. Mr. Griveaux said around a dozen individuals, some wearing black, some in yellow vests, used a small construction vehicle they found in the street to break through the door into the government compound. They also broke some windows and damaged some cars. He and his team were led through a back entrance and took refuge in a hotel nearby. President Macron tweeted his condemnation, saying France's guardians, its representatives, its symbols, were being attacked. Interior Minister Christophe Castaner said some 50,000 people had protested across France on Saturday, higher than last week but smaller than the 280,000 who turned out in November. The protest began as a grassroots French provincial movement with people donning high-visibility jackets, which by law must be carried by every vehicle in France. The movement, which became known as the Gilets Jaunes, Yellow Vests, broadened to include issues involving families, struggle to make ends meet, with calls for higher wages, lower taxes, better pensions and easier university entry requirements. Big protests in central Paris in November turned violent. Mr. Macron made a raft of economic concessions in December to appease the protesters, but he struck a defiant tone in his New Year address to the nation, saying the government would push on with its reform program and would make no allowances in guaranteeing public order. Earlier this week, Eric Drouet, one of the leading public figures in the protests, was arrested for a second time on suspicion of organizing an unofficial protest in Paris. His arrest prompted one political leader to call it an abuse of power by the government. He was released the following day. The United States military says it has killed 62 fighters from the Islamist group al-Shabab in 6 airstrikes in Somalia. 4 airstrikes on Saturday killed 32 militants, and a further 2 on Sunday killed 28, it said in a statement. These were the deadliest air attacks in Somalia since November 2017, when the United States said it had killed 100 militants. Somalia has seen a sharp increase in the number of airstrikes and casualties since President Donald Trump took office in the United States in January 2017. A tally by the Bureau of Investigative Journalism reveals that at least 400 people have been killed in airstrikes since the beginning of 2017, far more than the previous 10 years combined. The latest strikes bring to at least 40 the number carried out in Somalia so far this year, compared with 35 recorded in 2017. The United States has a huge military base in neighboring Djibouti, from where it launches attacks on the militants. Mr. Trump gave the United States military greater authority in March 2017 to attack militants in Somalia. Traditionally, United States presidents have been wary of intervening in Somalia since 80s Special Forces soldiers died fighting militias in the capital Mogadishu in 1993, a battle dramatized in the film Black Hawk Down. No civilians were killed in the latest airstrikes, which were carried out in coordination with the Somali government, the United States military said. Alongside our Somali and international partners, we are committed to preventing al-Shabab from taking advantage of safe havens from which they can build capacity and attack the people of Somalia, the United States Africa Command said. Al-Shabab, which is linked to al-Qaeda, has not yet commented on the latest strikes. Somalia-based security think tank the Hiraal Institute said in a report published in November that al-Shabab had been forced to change tactics following the upsurge in airstrikes. The institute said the group was now conducting fewer mass attacks on military bases, but attacks on government offices and businesses which refused to pay its taxes had increased markedly. The United States State Department, in its most recent report on terrorism, described Somalia as a terrorist safe haven, and said al-Shabab remained a threat. Despite suffering setbacks, the group retained control over large parts of the country, and the ability to carry out high-profile attacks using suicide bombers, explosive devices, mortars, and small arms. The report added, 2 Scandinavian women tourists have been found dead in Morocco, with kids to their necks, the country's interior ministry said. Both bodies were found near the town of Imlil in the high Atlas mountain range, near the foot of North Africa's highest peak, Mount Toubkal. The women, from Denmark and Norway respectively, have not yet been named. A police investigation has been launched into their deaths. The Interior Ministry statement said, a poacher has been ordered to watch the Disney film Bambi repeatedly after he was convicted of illegally killing hundreds of deer. Missouri hunter David Barry, Jr., must view the film at least once a month during his year-long sentence. He was arrested in August along with 2 family members for killing the deer, taking their heads and leaving their bodies to rot. Prosecutors said it is reportedly one of the biggest poaching cases in Missouri history, on top of the jail sentence for the illegal deer hunting. Judge Robert George ordered Barry Jr. to view the Walt Disney movie Bambi, with the first viewing being on or before December 24, 2018, and at least one such viewing each month thereafter, during his spell in prison. The 1942 cartoon about woodland creatures shows a hunter kill the mother of eponymous deer character Bambi. A months-long investigation, spanning several states, led to the arrest of Barry Jr., his father David Barry, Sr., and his brother Kyle Barry, according to local newspaper, the Springfield News-Leader. While the total number of deer taken illegally is unknown, Lawrence County's conservation agent Andy Barnes said it could be several hundred. Barry Jr. received a year-long sentence in Lawrence County Prison after pleading guilty to illegally taking wildlife. He has also been sentenced to a 120-day term in Barton County Prison for a firearms prohibition violation, and both he and his father had their hunting privileges revoked for life by the Missouri Conservation Commission. A poacher has been ordered to watch the Disney film Bambi repeatedly after he was convicted of illegally killing hundreds of deer. Missouri hunter David Barry, Jr., must view the film at least once a month during his year-long sentence. He was arrested in August along with 2 family members for killing the deer, taking their heads and leaving their bodies to rot. Prosecutors said it is reportedly one of the biggest poaching cases in Missouri history.